Both of our championship leaders are now 3 for 4 on wins this season. However, Suzuka is far more known as a driver's track, whereas Monza is a completely different beast. Straight line speed, accuracy with your braking, and clever slipstream strategy will be far more important here. Whose prayers will be answered at the Temple of Speed? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 5 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Monza is one of the most historic circuits on the iRacing service. With it being the third ever purpose-built racetrack in the world, there's plenty to talk about, so let's head to our track guide. Welcome to Monza. This track has a major place in racing history, not just for the legendary races, names, and cars that have been here, but because it was the third purpose-built car racing circuit in the world. It's often discussed and reverenced among fans, and especially by Italians who have nicknamed it the Temple of Speed. In fact, the Ferrari fans here are so famous for their devotion that they have been dubbed the Tifosi and never fail to show up in droves. While the real world offers only 3 feasible layouts to race on due to safety, in iRacing, the inclusion of the oval and the lack of safety concerns gives it a stunning 9 versions drivers can choose from. The modern GP layout is of course the most well-known, with its long history of hosting the Italian Grand Prix. But the oval and combined circuits allow those who thirst for more speed to satiate that craving with its insanely high banking. Indeed, incredible velocities are a staple of just about every version you can race here. Draft battles are not uncommon, no matter which car you're racing. But the inclusion of the chicanes makes using an outbraking maneuver a much more tricky way of overtaking. The circuit is notorious for drivers getting tangled up with each other while running side by side in these slow and cumbersome corners. In fact, one of the greatest dangers for drivers is the first few laps when the field is still clumped together and attempting to navigate them 2 and 3 wide. While there are other modern circuits with high-speed straights, the fact that Monza sits inside the Royal Park just north of Milan and is still tightly lined with trees heightens the sense of speed here. All in all, Monza is unmatched in its history, thrills, and great racing. Its significance in motorsports history and culture is sure to be unchallenged for years. Well, Adam, I really hope our drivers are actually feeling that need for speed today, because they're going to get plenty of it.
Absolutely, Joe. I know I called Le Mans the Daytona of Camel, but realistically, it's the Talladega of Camel, because this, Monza, is definitely the Daytona of Camel. The Autodromo Nazionale di Monza is one of the most visited tracks on iRacing for every road series, and Camel is no different. This 5.8 kilometer, 3.6 mile, 9-turn circuit may look simple to drive, and sure, you could get around without crashing fairly easily, but to do so quickly is another matter entirely. Yet another track that emphasizes downforce for speed, the Nissans will feel right at home along this blazing quick circuit, only needing to worry about the high curbs that dot the track, especially at the Ascari chicanes. One danger zone for them is that surprised us last season actually was the Curva Grande on the first lap, where the cold tires led to a lot of folks ending up in the gravel trap on the outside of the corner due to the lack of grip. So a light touch around there may be needed today. The Audis, on the other hand, will be having a lot less fun. The Curva Grande will be similarly dangerous for the Audis on the first few laps, and every other turn on this relatively compact course is medium to high speed, which makes their natural understeer even more emphasized. But, luckily for both classes, the straights are very long, so look for some good drafting passes into the Parabolica and through the Curva Grande. Multi-class should be a simple affair here, but due to the low amount of turns and the high percentage of on-throttle time, the Nissans will be taking every risk to keep the Audis from holding them up through the Lesmos and the Ascari chicane. This should definitely be a fascinating race, Joe.
No doubt about that. And let's take a look at the championship, which has been just as fascinating. Cy Andra jumps back up to the top spot, and despite having 3 wins to Fabian Gerber's 1, it's incredibly tight, and then Nick Schneider, who has yet to take victory this season, is still within 6 points of our top spot. We finally get a little bit of a gap back to Jamie Hall, who is 16 points back from Andra, with Sean Campbell still remaining in the picture as well amongst the top 5. Now, the GTO Championship, not quite the same, unfortunately.
No, not at all. Yuko Leskala has jumped ahead of Yoni Kaijinen by about 5 more points last week after Yoni finished third to Yuko's win last week. Ben Laughter, on the other hand, has lofted himself out of that 3-way tied battle for the third position and is now solidly in third alone by himself, 1 point ahead of Escaletaniemi and Roman Pawlowski, those 3 finishing in that order last week. So no surprise there that they're in third, fourth, and fifth. But look for those guys to be battling all day today, and look for Yuko to not run away as much from Yoni in this draft-heavy track.
Certainly looking like that third place is going to be a battle all the way to the end of the season. Meanwhile, for today's race itself, we are in round 5 out of 12. It is a 40-minute race, so back to the sprint format this week. It's an open setup series, but they have no fast repairs. So if you get damage, it's really going to hurt here because there's no scheduled pit stops, and you need all the straight line speed you can get. The incident points can get you a drive-through penalty or a complete disqualification. Hopefully we won't have too many people falling victim of that, even though there are some chicanes which tend to accrue them rather quickly. Right now, we're waiting for the first qualifying times to hit the board, and we've got, looks like Phil Lake coming through the Ascari chicane here in his Nissan. Hasn't been as quick as we expected coming over to the Nissan, the GTP class, as he was dominating over the GTOs, but seems to still be trying to find his feet here. Sean Campbell, in the meantime, looks like he managed to put it into 8th on his first lap. Tobias Gerber, not the Gerber we're used to seeing up at the top. And where's Fabian? Looks like he's yet to set his first time.
And Fabian has yet to set his first time. Quite a few drivers coming across around the same time. That's just the nature of this track. Phil Lake down in 10th position, but there's Fabian up to the pole, 4/10 ahead of Tobias. Now, speaking on Phil's troubles this season, switching to the Nissan is changing disciplines entirely. It's a different mentality on how to race, especially when it comes to the multi-class and how to pass. He's definitely learning a lot, but his consistency is starting to improve. Now all he has to do is race a little cleaner, and he should be fine.
Leskala up to the provisional pole ahead of Roman Pawlowski, who flanks him on the front row. Now, where is Kaijinen? Kaijinen is just coming around Ascari right now. So let's see if the number 1 rated driver in the Audi class is able to pip him to the pole. John Keefe, good enough for 13th on his first time through. Here's Leskala now heading into the Parabolica, and the finish line comes up very quick. The timing line here is very early on the straight, the start-finish straight. As he comes down to it, what's it going to be? A 37.9. That's about 2/10 off of our pole, but it's good enough for the front row.
Yeah, so Yoni Kaijinen doing a great job up there, getting up into that second position. Yuko Leskala on his second lap, trying to complete a good enough time. Here's Phil Lake, though, currently in 12th position, trying to improve his time, and he does by 3/10. That should be enough to bump him up to 11th position. Unfortunately, only that far. Here's Fabian, and does he go faster? He does not go faster, unfortunately. 2/10 slower on that lap, so there is a little bit of a window for folks, but most of the Nissans have completed their laps already. Here's Steven Workup.
Yep, Workup currently sitting in 15th. The second lap a little bit quicker, so he jumps up to 13th. Phil Lake down in 11th. That is shockingly far down for the number 2. And let's see about Leskala and Kaijinen. Leskala's second lap is quicker by about 6/10. My goodness, it is 8/10 of a second difference between himself and his main rival, Kaijinen.
I mean, when you're relying on mechanical grip, tires are a huge factor in that equation, and they're only going to be hot your second lap around here in qualifying. So Kaijinen just now exiting the Ascari chicane. I think he might have caught it off track, though. He just clipped the grass on the exit. Hopefully that does not nullify his time. We'll find out as he comes around the Parabolica, and we'll find out whether or not he pulls into the pits or whether he continues his lap.
I mean, the good news is I don't see too many drivers who can challenge him for that second place. So even though he's well off the pole, he's still going to be in second place. Yep, you're right. Good catch on that.
So unfortunately for Ioni, he's not going to be able to try and challenge Yuko for that time. Here's Joseph Mudrak coming around the final corner, trying to improve from a 1:30, but unfortunately it looks like he had an off this lap, so he'll complete the lap for practice, but not much doing there. He's Max Maida Thomason with 1:20 left, has yet to set a qualifying time.
Trankray just crossed for 4th. He messed up his first lap and got a clean one in, good enough for row 2. De Thomason, as he plunges into the Parabolica himself, that 29 needs to set a time. Hopefully he's kept it clean on this second lap. He's pushing it all the way to the limit coming out of the Parabolica. As he crosses, it's a 39.4. That will finally put him on the timing sheets, but it's only 14th.
Yep, so a couple of other drivers who have yet to set times, Carlos Fonseca and Devin Dunne, and both of them are currently parked, so they're not going to be able to get their times in, unfortunately. So we will have 2 drivers who do not get qualifying times in. Here's Mudrak once again, and Mudrak looking like he's just struggling a little bit to keep this thing on track right now, Joe.
Well, he's already had his 2 laps, so he's done for the day. I do see Joni Kaijinen trying to set a second lap, but he is running out of time. So that sets our grid for today, which is pretty full, if we're honest. Interestingly, it is back to the Gerber brothers on the front row. Fabian on the pole with Tobias next to him. Nick Schneider, who has been great so far this season, will start from 3rd. Let's see if he can finally get himself a win. Paul Cyril will start in 4th with Peter Smith in P5. Michael Houghton starts in 6th. Then it's Jamie Hall starting in 7th. To his outside will be Sean Campbell in the 8th position. Ardo Iamaki all the way down in 9th. Usually a driver competing for podiums here. Laust Olsen will round out your top 10. Then we get to last season's GTO champion, Phil Lake, starting 11th in the GTPs. Fabian Jungluth will to be his outside in the 12th position, and Martin Krajcik starts 13th. Stephen Warcup, good enough for P14. He's got Heitor Sintes Guindo in 15th behind him, John Keefe in 16th, and Nick Mucanos in the 17th spot. Pablo Suarez, P18 for him, followed by Joseph Mudrak in 19th and Javier Mosquera in 20th. Then the last few, Hideki Koivisto starts 21st. He's got Julio Forcolin next to him. Jonathan Rickard starts 23rd. Don Peak 24th, and Cam Porter 25th. Carlos Fonseca will start behind all of them, as he did not set a time in the prototypes.
Yuka Leskala is going to take pole in the GTOs with Joni Kaijinen starting off alongside him. Miguel Castro, a fantastic qualifying for him, puts him 3rd on the board with Ove Trankrid starting outside of him. Roman Pavlowski starting off in the 5th position ahead of Reed Miller and Esko Letaniemi, who's going to start off 7th. Jen Laughter starting off 8th today with Niels Kor starting off in 9th. Brian Shanahan up to 10th position with Kike Bengual, a new name that we're seeing today, starting off in 11th position. Ian Haycox starting off at 12th with Max Maida Thomason 13th. Oren Laskin's going to start 14th with Robin Happich starting off in 15th. Berg Treidler starts off 16th next to Piotr Misarek. We have Michael Haynes starting off 18th, and Rico Gata 19th, and then 20th on the board for the Audis is Devin Donne. He'll start 47th overall.
47 cars out here today. And look at how long it goes back here. It is a rolling start naturally, so they will have time to try and space themselves out so the Audis won't plow into the back of them. It is relatively cool on the track, 79 degrees Fahrenheit currently, so the tire warming coming up to Curva Grande that Adam mentioned could be a little bit of a concern. There's 26 Celsius for those measuring in metric units, of course. Coming through Ascari, Fabian Gerber leading the way, looking to try and return a blow to the championship on Cy Andra, who is not here today. Let's see if he can get a win. Or maybe Tobias, Adam, could finally get his on the broadcast.
Yeah, the eyes I'm keeping on my eye, well, the guy I'm keeping my eyes on, there we go, in the Nissans is going to be Nicholas Schneider. Remember, he likes to run with that car very well trimmed out, doesn't like a lot of downforce on it on the best of days, and here at Monza, I'd expect him to have negative angle on that wing to try and get that thing to go faster.
Shockingly, we don't have Hofdahl here either, and remember, he tends to like these sorts of circuits, so sad to see we won't have the Dale Jr. of the Camel Series competing today. Meanwhile, coming out of the Parabolica, the Porsche pace car should be jumping into the lane. Fabian Gerber will have control very briefly. Green flag is out pretty much immediately, and a few of the drivers in the third row unfortunately getting swapped and going 4 wide back there. That involves Peter Smith, Michael Houghton, Paul Sear, just a bunch of them together, a few starting to back out behind him, seeing the chaos start to erupt as the track thins up here coming into Curva Grande. We're going to have to start getting some of these things sorted out, and we do have cars off course. That is Olsen, Keith, and Warcup. One of them spinning behind. We'll get back to that in a minute. Meanwhile, let's go to the GTOs.
Gto Start was a really good jump from Yuka Leskala, who got a nice leap over Yoni Kaijin, who just now has finished a pass on Miguel Castro, who is challenging him. Now the Audis are coming along this massive, it's a huge wreck, a huge field, and they're going to collect them. Lots of cars being collected there in that accident across the back. But there we go, Yuka Leskala running away from Yoni Kaijin early.
That was Don Peak getting a big hit, unfortunately, as he was stopped on the inside. Looks like Ardo Yamaki also stopped off of the second Lesmo.
Him and Sean Campbell, Joe.
Paul Cyril, unfortunately, involved in that too. Up at the front, now Nick Schneider has successfully passed Fabian Gerber. And all that was happening, we missed that Fabian Gerber has been overtaking. This happened in the Curva Grande. So, Nick Schneider leads the field by 0.8 of a second. Jamie Hall in third, and we've got Tobias Gerber running fourth behind them.
I think that's frankly the worst news that you can get as the GTP field, considering Nicholas Schneider runs with such little trim. It's going to be really hard to even draft off of him. Fabian's doing the best that he can, but you can see Nicholas trying to weave right now and to keep the speed to keep the draft off of Fabian Gerber. He's about a second behind.
Come up into the Curva Grande for the second time, and indeed he seems to be scampering away from Fabian Gerber. I believe he may have broken the draft here, at least for the time being. Top three relatively spread apart. Our first real battle is between Tobias Gerber, Peter Smith, and Michael Houghton, and that is for fourth. They head into the Lesmos for the second time.
You know, a lot of drivers really struggling with the lack of downforce on these machines and those cold tires. I'm seeing a lot of the Nissans going off throughout the track. Sean Campbell's had multiple offs. Paul Searle has had his own off. Sean Campbell's just spun once again in the Curva Grande, so he's actually going to park it and send it back to the pits.
Let's head back to our GTO lead, where Leskala is ahead of Kaijinen. Then you got a big gap back to Castro in third. Top two trying to get themselves away to keep it from being a big train up at the front.
Yeah, I think Yuko was hoping to run away from Yoni and break the draft, but unfortunately he couldn't get out of that 1.3 to 4 second gap that is needed in order to break the draft in these Audis. So Yoni Kaijinen's right on his back bumper, and he's only going to get closer here as they go through Ascari and head towards the Parabolica. If he can stay close to the Parabolica, he'll be able to catch on to the draft. One thing I noticed in their qualifying is that Yoni Kaijinen has not gotten the Curva Grande down very well here at Monza, so it's going to be a struggle for him to hang on to the back.
Let's see if we can get a pass here on the front stretch between our top two. Or will Leskala have enough of an exit as they come off the final curve? They definitely have broken the draft to Castro. He's a full 1.8 seconds back at this point as we ride on board with Kaijinen, looking ahead at our championship and race leader, Yuko Leskala. He starts to reel him in. Again, no Rettifilio chicane in this version, so it's straight to the Curva Grande. Is he able to continue to close in? Not sure that they'll be completely flat out here. Look at them start to just drift to the outside as Leskala goes through that fast right-hander, breaking into the first braking zone, and Leskala will not give it away.
Yeah, Leskala doing a good job of holding off Yoni Kaijin, but very interestingly, Nicholas Schneider's trimmed out Nissan is not holding back Fabian Gerber. He just did the fastest lap last time, and he's continuing to hang on to the back of Nicholas. Nicholas is definitely faster through the exits of the corners and through the faster corners, but Fabian Gerber is well within that draft range, and especially on this massively long straight and into the Curva Grande, he's able to hang on.
Down the back, or front stretch, excuse me, once again for our leaders. And still trying to break that slipstream, giving a little bit to Fabian Gerber. He's pulling him back into within 0.4. trying to see if he can challenge Nick Schneider and get those valuable 3 extra points that comes with a win. Jamie Hall also starting to close it down, trying to make it a 3-car train for the lead here as we are only on lap 4 of round 5.
Yeah, I would expect the train at the front to be very big, especially towards the beginning portion of this race before they catch up to the Audis. So expect that to be the case throughout the day today. We have a pass going on for the 8th position with Fabian Gerber next to Aitor Sentes-Guindo. Nicholas Makanos looking on at that as well in the GTPs, but you can see that train up at the lead just getting bigger and bigger.
Let's go to the replay for the start. Now, the first 2 to go off track in the Curva Grande were Keefe and Olsen. So, as we switched back to our GTOs, there we go. And then it was Don Peak who got plowed into, unfortunately. I think he just also got kind of caught up with drivers having issues here.
That's exactly what I feared would happen, Joe, is that the cold tires just didn't let these guys get any power down on that left rear tire. They couldn't turn it.
Now we're going to look at Ardo Iamaki's incident. This is in the 2nd Lesmo. And we mentioned Paul Cyr involved in it. And who else did you say it was? I'm trying to remember the 3rd driver.
I wasn't able to catch the 3rd driver when we were looking at it, but oh wow, yeah, just a little bit. That was interesting. So the driver behind had self spin, but in front, I think that was coming off the nose of Paul Cyr.
If we come back live, we're already catching the back of the GTO pack. Enrico Gatta having to let our GTP leaders through. And up at the front, it is still Schneider, but it was awful tight amongst them. Ooh, let's go back to Sentes-Guindo, though. My goodness, he and Mukanos side by side, and look at them all scattered about as they enter the first Lesmo. They're going to come upon the traffic here. He stays off the inside, thankfully not going to cause an issue, but that leaves Mukanos in 8th, Sentes-Guindo 9th, Jungblut 10th, Krejcik 11th, and Mudrack in 12th.
Yeah, Nick Mukanos made a good job navigating his way through Sentes-Guindo and Jungblut. It's been very tight between all these guys ever since the start of the race. And whoa, very interestingly, Nicholas Schneider has opened up a gap to Fabian Gerber of 1.8 seconds, so I think there was a mistake from Fabian somewhere along this lap, but he was able to stay ahead of Jamie Hall. So as we're watching this battle, a bunch of developments throughout.
And I think some of it might have been the lap traffic of Enrico, because both Gerber and Hall had to take a bit of a strange line into De La Roja. I think that is most of the cause of that gap. Back onto the front stretch one more time, and look at them start to erupt again, weaving and trying to break that slipstream. Mukanos looked relatively safe as we once again get back to our battle for second, Fabian Gerber and Jamie Hall. Jamie's not quite got enough. It was tight behind them between Smith and Tobias Gerber, along with Michael Houghton in the popcorn position.
Yeah, Michael's doing a good job hanging on to the back of this draft right now as they try and get going once again. It looks like everyone's doing a good job, but they have their tires underneath them at this point, so we haven't seen too many more offs into the outside gravel through some of the wider circuits here. But this is very tight racing up here for the second and third. But we're going to go back to Ben Lafter, who's currently battling with... Oh, no, Reed Miller off track. He hits the outside wall hard through the Parabolica.
And he got help. Ben Lafter, sadly, catching his rear bumper. And with these cars not wanting to slow down much, you're going to see him just spear off.
Yeah, and he tried to power slide out of it. Unfortunately, didn't have enough power left in that machine. It already had damage before that incident on the front. So he didn't have enough drive out of the front tires to pull it in. So he probably would have been better braking in that scenario, unfortunately. But he had no idea.
Coming back to Laughter. Niels Gore has certainly seen a lot of action here. Is going to see a little bit more as Ben takes a look to the inside to see if he can get sixth place away from him. Nothing doing. Into the first Lesmo. Ooh, a bad exit from Niels Gore. Opens the door yet again. Laughter still can't get his foot through. Behind them, that's Letiniemi as well, giving watch, waiting for things to unfold in front of him. Laughter still trailing in the slipstream, starts to pick it up down towards Ascari, and again, a little too timid.
Yeah, you have to be extremely gutsy to make any sort of move around here at Monza in the Audi. You're going to have to be hard on the brakes and just take away the line of the guy ahead of you. Otherwise, they're not going to let you by. And especially if you want to affect a pass that's going to break you away from the draft behind, you're going to have to do it through that second sector of the course, because this third sector onto the long front straight is not a great place to do it, because then they could just follow you through the Curva Grande and catch right back up.
Oh, we got to go to Kaijinen. He's got his best run yet, and he's backs out of it. Ooh, okay, interesting. Kaijinen is not interested in the lead this early in the race, riding on his dashboard now. If he keeps doing that, though, it does appear that Miguel Castro is running them down.
Now, that being said, this is an old dirty torque strategy in the Audi to sit behind the leader as long as he possibly can and make the pass at the right moment, which would be leading up to the last lap. Beyond the front straightaway, entering the final lap would be the right moment to do it. So if he can hang on to the back of Yuko throughout this race and then make that last lap pass, that's going to be the best opportunity for him to win, especially considering the fact that Yuko likely has race pace.
And another dirty torque driver that appears to be employing that strategy was Jamie Hall, but he gets checked up by the traffic. They are very much in the thick of that. He rocked up to the back of Fabian Gerber, then also made a big lift. Peter Smith in behind them, can't overtake despite the checkup that they experienced. It's going to be Burke Treidler in front of them, coming down the long stretch towards Ascari, but it doesn't end there. Then it's a battle ahead of them between Misoriak and Laskin. That is for 16th position.
Absolutely, this is a giant bottle up right there in all these positions. Oh, and there's an Audi off on the inside of the Ascari chicane. That's going to cause contact. Oh, the Audi's off, and so is one of the Nissans. Everyone scatters.
That was Laskin, unfortunately, and Peter Smith made a little bit of contact with him. Looks like everybody able to continue. Look at them weaving around that slower class car, just trying to do what they can to give them as wide a berth as possible. We got to go back to our leaders in the GTOs, though. Through the Curva Grande once again. Yuko is not going to cover off the inside. Kaijinen once again not actually making attempts, but this time showing himself in the mirrors of our championship leader.
I mean, I think he's trying to upset Yuko's race strategy, but Yuko knows that Yoni making the pass now is disadvantageous to Yoni. So Yuko understands that he doesn't need to defend, because even if he does get past, it's not going to be a problem. Well, let's go up to Tobias Gerber and Phil Lake, Phil's getting passed by Tobias up the inside.
Along with being held up a little bit by some traffic. Oh, and there's a slow one in front of him. That is Michael Houghton. He must have had some sort of issue as he gives away the inside into the first Lesmo. I think Tobias Gerber could seal the deal here. He's almost fully ahead of him. Oh, the traffic in front of him once again plays a part. That's Niels Core. And somehow Niels Core must have had an issue, because he's down in 14th now. Whoa,
holy smokes!
3 wide.
It's going to get worse here for Phil Lake. He gets bottled up behind Niels, who can't go any faster. Tobias, Michael Houghton, and Phil Lake, as they go into the Ascari chicane, they're getting chased by Peter Smith as well. This is very, very close stuff. I think Phil Lake cut that as close as he possibly could with the 3 wide, but it's a giant mob ahead of them too, Joe.
With eyes like measuring tape, Phil Lake somehow managed to find the gap in there, and that's going to gift him 5th ahead of Michael Houghton. But it's not over. Here comes Peter Smith on Houghton to the inside into the Parabolica. Now he's going to have to accelerate away as there's a battle in front. That's Mengual and Haycox. They're going to stay off to the left, let them continue in front of him. Phil Lake wants that spot back, and Tobias Gerber in front of him has little retort. The slipstream is hard to fight against down the pit straight. Will they go 4 wide? This is Hapich and Shanahan. They're just not enough space as they come through, but they do have enough space for 3 wide. My goodness. The master of traffic today, Phil Lake, gets 4th out of those moves.
Oh, but he's going to take it too deep into the chicane. He's going to have to go over the curbs and lose some time. Let's see whether or not he can hang on to the positions. Tobias Gerber is 1.5 seconds back. He's going to back it off now and try and catch up that time that he lost through those corners. But here he comes. He's back on the gas now, but Tobias Gerber back onto the back of him. While this was happening, Joe, we had a huge wreck between Martin Krajcik, Stephen Warkup, and a couple of the Audis at the exit of the Ascari chicane. This is about half a lap ago. They're both in the pits now, unfortunately.
And that was just miraculous timing for Phil Lake. As he got that slowdown penalty, there was so much traffic for those behind, which is still going on as Tobias Gerber gets slowed up, and Peter Smith once again able to take advantage of things, and that gets him 5th place. It is just complete confusion here at the top of our GTP drivers. Hard to tell where to go and who to try and overtake when. So far, the best to make those moves has been Phil Lake and Peter Smith.
I remember what I was talking about, Joe. The desperation for the Nissans to try and get a position. Here we're looking at Yuko Leskola and Joni Kaisen. Joni backed off once again on the straightaway to make sure he didn't pass Yuko Leskola. So Joni still sitting in that position, very content to be there in second.
Meanwhile, the battle for the lead still close, but we've got to go to Tobias Gerber and Peter Smith once again. Tobias has managed to overtake Peter Smith, and they've got to go past Ben Laughter coming into De La Roja as they both break awkward line. But it looks like they'll be able to navigate it successfully. Phil Lake ahead, has to try and overtake Letaniemi at one of the worst spots coming through the Lesmos, one of the few places where you've got multiple corners in succession.
And he's able to do so. That was actually the right move from Esko to stay to the outside. Allows Phil Lake to get through the corner a little bit quicker, actually, because of the way that the banking works through the Lesmos. So now Phil off by himself out front by about half a second over Tobias Gerber, who's gaining. Peter Smith still right on the back of Tobias as they go into the Ascari chicane.
Let's stay here, but an update. Nick Schneider has now pulled away to about 2.5 seconds over Fabian Gerber. So the number 10 is riding high as we ride high on top of Peter Smith coming down towards the Parabolica. Tobias Gerber in front of him.
Oh,
Yellow,
Michael
black,
Houghton's
and white
off.
machine. Oh, no.
Michael Houghton looks like he clipped some curbs. Oh, he just clipped the inside curb on the exit of the Ascari chicane. It upset the car just enough that he ended up going around.
Wow, wow. Big hit, too, on the inside of the track. Bounces him completely across. Thankfully, nobody coming through at that time. So it was able to be a one-car incident, but it seems to be day over for him. In fact, day over for fewer cars than I anticipated. We've still got some that are repairing, Krejcik, Warkup, and Gata. Otherwise, we've only lost Suarez and Peak.
And it looks like Joni Kaisen and Yuko Leskola have been caught by our leaders in the GTPs. Fabian Gerber is up behind them. Nicholas Schneider just made the pass on them. So here's Fabian going to the inside of Yuko Leskola, who has lost the lead to Joni Kaisen. Kaisen decided to take the jump earlier on when Nicholas was making the pass. And now that they have traffic, I think that might be part of what defines this race.
And poor Ove Trangrade spun out on his own through De La Roja. He's dropped from what I believe was 5th down to 16th, 17th actually, as he finally gets the car going. He was just stuck facing the wall and had no space to back up, sadly.
Oh,
Meanwhile, we continue to watch. Yeah, this is looking good here.
Yuko's going to make the pass. He's not content to sit behind Joni as Joni was to sit behind Yuko. So Yuko Leskola up to the lead once again. That's a spun car on the inside. This Jonathan Rickard, who's currently a couple laps down of our leaders in the GTPs. So we're going to stay with this. Yuko Leskola now ahead of Joni Kaisen again. Let's see whether Kaisen decides to make the move this time. Yes, he is. He's going to take the inside.
Side by side, running at 175 miles an hour. And I think that was a small lift from Leskola because he suddenly fell back behind them. Now, they're going to have company. Phil Lake, Tobias Gerber, and Peter Smith, who have been in a fierce battle, are going to blow by around the outside of Curva Grande, thankfully catching them at the right time. However, poking his nose, it appears that Tobias Gerber does want to try and get that 4th place back away from Phil Lake.
Oh, that was a great De La Roja from Peter Smith. He got right up to the back bumper of Tobias Gerber, and he's now trying to claw onto the back of Tobias Gerber. He's got him looking in his mirrors, so Tobias starting to fall off from Phil Lake a little.
Bad exit coming out of the Lesmos, and Peter Smith could have a great shot trying to defend the inside initially. Tobias Gerber then comes back to the racing line. No attempt from Peter Smith down into Ascari. Stays put. Could he be waiting for the pit straight?
It's definitely possible he could, but look at this. They have some traffic up ahead of them that they're going to have to deal with, I believe. So that could be interesting when they get back onto the pit straight. So Here they go through the Curva Grande. Phil Lake has a good opportunity, but unfortunately, I think his gap is just about right for these two guys to blaze past him on the front straight if they so choose, if they get a good exit through the Curva Grande. It looks like everybody does. Let's see what happens here.
I do not see any GTOs in front of them, so shouldn't get interrupted by that. There we saw from the long angle, no traffic. Phil Lake just up ahead as Tobias Gerber close in. Peter Smith. Are we going to go 3 wide? Ooh, Smith thought about it on the inside of Curva Grande, then decided better of it.
Well, Tobias is going for it.
Oh boy, oh boy! No! Into the grass slightly, almost getting into the side of Enrico Gatta. And that is going to slow up, unfortunately, Peter Smith, but thankfully everybody comes out the other side whole.
Well, fortunately, everyone was able to avoid Enrico Gatta, who was crossing the track in the braking zone, unfortunately, so everyone's safely through, but that's broken up this battle significantly.
Let's go back to Gerber and Hall for second place, because that is still close, and we have to remember that Hall probably would want to try and overtake to see if he can improve his position in the championship. He's bumped up to 4th after last round, and taking points away from Fabian Gerber might be invaluable later down the line, as Gerber does have multiple championships and is always one you have to watch out for.
Absolutely. They do have their next traffic is actually in class, so it's not really a good opportunity to make a pass and try and make a pick here. But Jamie Hall is definitely going to want to be clinging to the back of Fabian Gerber's draft, and he's well within the draft. It may look like a long ways away, and it is a good, 50 yards up to Fabian Gerber, but he is within 1 second, so that draft in effect.
And it continues on around this long, fast right-hander of Curva Grande, all the way up until they break down for Della Rosa. Wasn't quite long enough this time by. Another battle worth keeping an eye on might be for 4th in the GTOs. Letniemi and Pawlowski are close enough for a slipstream there. But first, we're going to look at Sintez Guindo trying to fend off Fabian Jungbluth. This is for P8. No change of position this time.
Sintez Guindo doing a good job of staying ahead of Jungbluth. Jungbluth trying to gain his way back right now. He's currently 3 spots up from his starting position in 12th. Sintez Guindo up 7 spots himself. So all this attrition has really caused some stuff. But our 2 big movers in the GTPs are Nick Bacanos up from 17th and Carlos Fonseca up from 26th position up to 12th.
Certainly taking advantage of a few drivers having bad starts to this race, as they weave their way through Ascari. Coming out of it, Sintez Guindo trying to get the best launch possible. It's not enough to shake Jungbluth, however. In fact, he's got a fantastic run. Thinks farther ahead, though. I wondered if he'd maybe try and stick his nose in at Parabolic, and the answer is a definite no.
No, the best time to do it is going to be through the Curva Grande into the braking for the Della Rosa. That's going to be the best opportunity to effect a pass, but the question is does he actually want to do that, or does he want to just stay in the draft of Guindo ahead of him?
I can report that Jamie Hall does not want to pass. He had a similar situation into Della Rosa and stayed behind Fabian Gerber as we continue to ride on board with Jungbluth. There he is, catching up towards the rear wing, and indeed, he's going to just lift just before the braking into Della Rosa. Great exit, though, and once again, taking a tiny little look, but nothing serious.
And if we could we go back to 4th and 5th place in the Audi GTOs between Esko Letniemi and Roman Pawlowski? This is for those points-paying positions. Remember, these guys are only separated by 1 point on the board in the scoreboard as well. Ben Laughter, who is 6th place, about 5 seconds behind them, is also in this battle for points. So this could once again change the complexion of that scoreboard going into next week if they finish as they are.
Laughter ways back, though, trying to catch up as Pawlowski gives chase on the number 26. Esko Letniemi. I'm kind of surprised Esko doesn't have a higher I rating, because we tend to see him in these sort of positions, looking at top 5s, top 10s here in the series. As it comes down towards Ascari, it's not going to be enough of a draft for Pawlowski to attack here.
being a good Audi driver sometimes feels a little lonely. It doesn't tend to translate to many of the other cars on the service, unfortunately, but it's a very unique experience driving this machine, and you can be really good at this and struggle on other portions of the service. So some of our specialists here tend to have lower I ratings than you'd expect.
Meanwhile, Fabian Jungbluth and Sintez Guindo are going to go side by side. Jungbluth tries around the outside into De La Roja. That one doesn't work. Re-rack them and try again.
Yeah, Guindo did a good job of moving to the outside as they went through Curva Grande and making sure that he could defend well from Jungbluth through that De La Roja chicane. So Jungbluth trying to get by, can't quite get it done.
Still got a good shot here. He stays well within the slipstream, only 2 car lengths back, and that narrows down to 1 car length. Taking a look, having a little bit of a peek into Ascari, doesn't pay dividends. In fact, that may compromise his exit slightly. Look at Sintez Guindo stretch away.
Yeah, good job from Sintez Guindo to holds true to his line and make sure that he can make those moves. Just an update on our leader, Nicholas Schneider, with that trimmed out machine. Now 3.6 seconds ahead of Gerber. He has not caught bad traffic in a while. Nicholas Schneider just out there in the lead of this race very comfortably at this point. He's got some Audis that he's going to have to pass up here into De La Roja. Looks like he's going to be able to get one, but he's really not concerned.
Schneider is certainly sitting pretty. It'll be his first win of the season. He took a 6th, a 3rd, and a 3rd in the first 2 rounds and has been incredibly consistent for sure. Meanwhile, still side by side, and this time I think Jungbluth has got it done. An easy slipstream along the pit straight is going to do the job.
Yeah, this was up the inside of Curva Grande. He did an excellent job of just making that pass work. Aitor Sintez Guindo tried to hold it on the outside, tried to wait until Variante De La Roja to try and make that pass work. Couldn't quite get the job done. Fabian Jungbluth up to 8.
Checking through the times on Niels Kor, because we mentioned that he must have had some sort of issue, and it does appear, I do see a lap that is about 10 seconds slow. It seems he unfortunately slid. Actually, he made contact. We won't have a replay, but he made contact with Ben Lafter in Curva Grande, and that's what spun him out.
That's going to be Ben Lafter's second incident in Curva Grande, isn't it?
I think you're right. Fascinating. Lafter's still running in 6, and to be fair, I do not think this one was Lafter's fault. He just was side by side.
Fabian Gerber's making a pass on Jamie Hall, I believe. He's going to try and make it work for second position here in the GTP. He's going to go up the inside here of De La Roja. Let's see whether or not Jamie can outbrake him. He can. He's going to cut him off.
And reverse that, I think it was Hall that was behind him before, or at least it was when we last looked. When did he get by? Oh, there was a mistake last lap from Fabian Gerber. He got a slowdown penalty in De La Roja.
Yeah, but we need to stay with these guys because they've got a giant pack of cars up ahead of them. This is 12th through 16th in the Audis, and they are all intent on battling each other. Here comes Jamie Hall through them. Fabian Gerber realizes that they're not looking in their rearview mirrors. That was 3 wide on the entrance to Ascari. Wow, Jamie's going to be able to hang on to it. Oh, we've had a wreck in the middle of the Audis. He's trying to hang on. He's going to be able to hold on to it and make sure that nobody hits him. Wow, that was close. That was Robin Hapich.
Can we get an onboard from Fabian Gerber on that one? That had to be brown pants inducing, because that slide went through almost the entire chicane. Hapich trying to hold on to it. Just look at him. He's trying to figure out which way is he going to go, and eventually a clearing opens up, and he is through.
You know, usually I say it's a good idea to lock it down, but in that situation, I think Hapich had the right idea. He knew how packed up everybody was behind him. He just had to hold on to it. Here comes Fabian Gerber upon Ian Haycox and Peter Misarek. He's going to be able to go around the outside as Haycox trying to challenge Misarek for position 11th in GTO class.
I almost think that he just kept his foot in it, and Hapich was trying to power his way out of the slide. That did cost Gerber quite a bit. He went to about 2.5 seconds behind, but he's already catching it back up. Meanwhile, we're watching Olsen here on screen. This is, of course, one of our drivers involved in the opening incident, just trying to get out of the way of our third place driver in the GTPs.
Yeah, Fabian 2 seconds behind. That's broken the draft, unfortunately, to Jamie Hall. So now our leading 4 GTPs are currently broken up by about 2 seconds apiece, with Jamie Hall actually 5 seconds behind Schneider. But let's go back to Roman Pawlowski and Esko Letaniemi, because Roman right on the back of Esko as they exit the Curva Grande.
It's going to be Mudrack off to the inside, easily letting them go. Battle continues between Letaniemi and Pawlowski, who'll have a great slipstream down the pit straight. Question is, will he take it? Especially since he's got Sean Campbell and Michael Houghton, who are not fighting for position, coming up behind, so they hopefully shouldn't be in too much of an urgent rush. And they're easily going to go around the outside of Curva Grande. Roman Pawlowski, though, still not taking the move.
Yeah, Roman very cautious there as they went through Curva Grande to make sure not to wash out into the GTPs on the outside. It gave up his position, unfortunately, to try and the opportunity there. But look at this, Tobias Gerber and Peter Smith battling side by side as they go through the Curva Grande.
Tobias having lost touch with Phil Lake in front of him. Wheel to wheel down to Della Roja. And inside with the desired line, Tobias Gerber fends him off for now, but will it be a slow exit? Peter Smith tries to out-accelerate him. The battle continues, coming up to the Lesmos. 2 right-handers. Smith should have the advantage, and indeed, he's going to take 5th place away.
That was a great fight back from Peter Smith on Tobias. That was a great job. Do the swap over there through Della Roja and try and make that work, and he made it work. Impressive stuff from Peter Smith, especially with the aero damage he has on the right rear of that machine that has been affecting his straight line speed today.
Not the place that you want that sort of disadvantage, that's for sure. We're only 8 minutes left. This race has been whizzing by, much like the cars down that pit straight, as Peter Smith continues to lead ahead of Tobias Gerber. He sets his sight on Phil Lake, 1.7 seconds. Not impossible for him to try and get up to the top 4.
Well, let's go back to Esko Letaniemi and Roman Pawlowski as Esko's covering off the inside. Roman's going to try on the outside around the Curva Grande. He's going to try and break a little bit early, see if he can get the over-under on Esko. Let's see whether or not he can power out of the corner. He doesn't seem super confident through the Curva Grande. Well, is he going to do it under the braking? He's going to try on late break, but Esko Letaniemi brakes later than him. They're both going to enter the Della Roja very, very slowly. Unfortunately, Roman Pawlowski not able to get a better exit. Esko's going to be able to hold him off.
That's our leader just behind. Nick Schneider's number 10. Still has quite a lead of about 5 seconds. Oh, and going wide into the second Lesmo. Unfortunately, Roman Pawlowski sees his gap suddenly increase up to Letaniemi. Let's see what happened there. Did he just get unsighted or what?
I don't think he realized that Nicholas was going to make that move up to the inside, and he thought so. Yeah, that's what happened. So Esko knew that Nicholas was making the move up to the inside. He braked a little early. Roman got caught out.
Oh man, sad to see, because Roman was having a heck of a run. He still has 5th, so it's certainly not the worst day for him, but he was spying that 4th place for such a long time. Sad to see it slip through his fingers this late on. Now, of course, watching Joni Kajanen be lapped by Mudrack here and the GTPs. And then I think more cars coming by. Houghton overtaking Kajanen.
Yeah, this is an important thing to note. Jukka Leskala ahead of Kajanen by about 5 seconds. So Kajanen, as soon as that draft was broken to Jukka Leskala, Jukka's race pace has really proven to be true right now. You can see, yeah, that gap between the two of them actually quite a bit bigger than that, because they have Joseph Mudrack in there. So that's unfortunately messing with our timing and scoring just a little bit. But Jukka Leskala, yeah, a full 5 seconds ahead of Joni Kajanen right now. So that battle for the lead, unfortunately, has been broken up.
Probably what Jukka wants, so not unfortunate to him, as he'll be looking for win 4 out of 5, excuse me. We come down towards the Parabolica. It's not impossible. We have seen crazier things happen. He could close it up, but he's going to have to hope for some sort of chaos.
Absolutely, and Fabian Gerber not done on his charge forward. He's got Nicholas McConis in his sights, and they've got a bunch of GTO traffic ahead of them. This is Max Mayday Thomason that Nick is navigating by. And then this is the battle between Reed Miller and Ben Laughter once again, 4-6 position. I don't know how Reed has managed to get back up there, but he has.
And that was Ben Laughter who punted him off before. Now, the drivers remember, but we usually don't see anything ill-intentioned in this series, so I highly doubt Miller will pay him back. But can't imagine he's going to give him too much quarter, because he probably wants that top 5 if he can help it.
Absolutely. So as everybody navigates that way, we're going to head back to Fabian Gerber and Jamie Hall. Fabian catching back up to Jamie after losing those 2 seconds. He's been able to close that gap to the traffic, and now he's back up there battling for second.
Oh, but he just made a mistake coming off of De La Roja, off into the gravel, and it's back up to 1.5 seconds between himself and the Dirty Torque driver. There you see through the windshield just how much smaller the number 9 is.
Yeah, and the trouble with this track is there's so few corners and the speeds are so high.
Sorry, Ben Laughter just got into a problem with De Thomason into De La Roja. It has been a fraught day for poor Ben Laughter.
Yeah, so Max Mayday Thomason tried to make the move up the inside on Reed Miller, ended up outbraking himself, and oh my goodness, he just couldn't get the thing turned.
For Reed Miller, that probably feels like a little bit of karma, and that gives him 6th place. We'll take one more look at it from a different angle.
Yeah, he just outbroke himself into the corner, couldn't get it turned at all. Reed Miller just saw Ben Laughter cleaned out in front of him.
And that leaves open track, but Reed's 8 seconds behind Pawlowski. Going to be very difficult to make that up in 3 minutes. Severe damage on the left front of Ben Laughter after that contact. De Thomason kept the position, interestingly. He hasn't given it back.
Yeah, I mean, after an incident like that, you just kind of drive away. So unfortunately, I have a feeling that both of these guys are going to be locked in that battle for the rest of the race because their pace is going to be a little bit reduced now because of the damage.
So we should be 2 to go at the line, I believe. Nick Schneider's coming down. Yeah. Down to Ascari. There you see him braking for that last chicane. That's Sean Campbell in front of him. He's getting on the radio, letting the leader know he's going to let him by soon. And we have a car off track. That's Krajcik and Workup. Was that Workup and Krajcik getting together? No, it is not. Workup had a separate incident, and I think... I'm trying to figure out...
This is interesting. Because
yeah, okay. Yeah, there's 2 Audis off in front of Krajcik first, and then Workup just kind of loses it separately from all of them.
Now, both of these guys have had a lot of damage on their vehicles over the course of this race. Krajcik, you can see him parked up there. He actually had a spin exiting the Ascari chicane. He just got held up a little bit, unfortunately.
Yeah, so there's the 2 Audis that ran into one another. I think that was Hapich and Oren Laskin.
So he clipped the little patch of gravel that's out there on the exit of the chicane and ends up losing the rear end, coming to the inside. Everyone's able to avoid it, fortunately.
It's like drivers getting a little tired after a long and grueling race here at Monza. But Schneider is not among them. He is full of energy, antsy to get his first win of the season. The number 10 is going to get the white flag next time by. If he can just safely get around the circuit, it is going to be his.
Absolutely, and as he tries to navigate Ascari, he's got a spinning Audi that happens to the outside of him. That Audi crossed the track. Fortunately, nobody hit him. My eyes are currently on 2nd place, Jamie Hall and Fabian Gerber, but we'll stick with Nicholas as he takes the white.
Yeah, that went in front of Jamie Hall and Fabian Gerber, so they certainly had another scare. So we come around Alika, white flag now waving for the number 10 car. Can the 3 of Fabian Gerber, though, get back up into 2nd ahead of Jamie Hall? Not really a battle for our GTO lead, but I can report that Lescalo's taking the white flag right now.
He'll have to do it right now, Joe. He'll have to do it through the Curva Grande into the braking for the Della Rosa. If Jamie Hall is smart, he's going to block off that inside braking zone into Della Rosa. Otherwise, he's going to get passed here by Fabian. He's got to wash out.
He does. Covers the inside. Fabian Gerber looking the long way around to the first apex. They're going to go wheel to wheel into the chicane, and they'll come out the other side, but Jamie Hall still stays ahead, but barely.
Fantastic racecraft from both of them to cape off of each other through there. It's such a difficult sector for those GTPs with the high curbs. It's so hard to get the power down for those drivers.
I think something happened to Peter Smith because he just lost a position. Seems like he had an error. We'll come back to that a little bit later, though. Nick Schneider out of the Ascari chicane. If he's smooth on this final corner through Parabolica, he'll take his first win of the season. What a pick from Adam today, calling out Schneider's love of low downforce setups, and it has paid dividends today because that number 10 goes by the lap traffic and comes to the line to take victory at Monza for round 5 of the Kamel GT Series.
Fabian Gerber unable to get anything done on Jamie Hall. Jamie will retain that second position. It'll be Jamie Hall and Fabian Gerber second and third.
And Yuko Lescala comes up to the Parabolica himself. It is 5 seconds between himself and Kaijinen, making it win number 4 out of 5 rounds. He is looking hot this season. The number 4 takes the win in Italy.
And we actually had a wreck on the last lap between Maxime de Thomason and I believe quite a couple of other drivers that happened while this finish was happening. So the bottom of the top 10 very much jumbled up. We'll have to keep our eyes on that when we report the results.
Thought for a second that Trangrade may have had a battle on his hands, but that has fallen apart. Ben Laughter back from him. So not sure if we'll see this one go all the way to the line. Waiting for the rest of the cars to finish in case we get a battle indeed. Laughter too far back. So we're going to take a quick break then. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. Don't go away. Welcome back to Monza. Round 5 in the Kamel GT Series gave us a first win of the season for Nick Schneider. Victory from third on the grid. He finished ahead of Jamie Hall, who took P2 after a 7th place start. Fabian Gerber just snake bit this season, it seems, from first to third for him. Phil Lake finished in 4th. What a climb, despite a little bit of chaos for him throughout the race. Started 11th up to 4th. Then Tobias Gerber finishing 5th off the front row. The Gerber brothers just not having the day they were hoping for. Peter Smith, boy, a lot of action for him. He finished P6. And Nick Bucanos, a climb up 10 spots from 17th to 7th. Sintez Guindo finished in P8 with Fabian Jungbluth in the 9th spot. Ardo Iamaki was P10 with John Keefe in 11th. Hideki Koivisto finished 12th, followed by the last of the drivers on the lead lap for our GTPs, Giulio Vercolen in 13th. You've got Carlos Fonseca in 14th, Paul Cyril in 15th, and Jonathan Rickards 16th. Cam Porter 17th, and Joseph Mudrack in 18th. Then you get to cars 2 laps down, including Sean Campbell in 19th and Laust Olsen in 21st. The rest of our GTPs, which you'll see later on, did DNF, including Don Peak, who reached out to us and extended his apologies to the entire Audi field for the incident at the start of the race.
Yeah, I'm sure the Audis are going to appreciate the apology, unfortunately, but Yuko Leskala was ahead of that incident and comes home with the win from pole. Yoni Kaijin 5 seconds back in second place. Miguel Castro hangs on for a third position. I think that's going to be his first podium on the broadcast here with us. Escalota Niemi is going to win that battle of the points champion of the points, third place in the points contenders, coming home in fourth ahead of Roman Pawlowski in fifth. Reed Miller somehow, after wrecking through the Curva Grande, ends up coming back in sixth with a damaged machine. Impressive drive from him. Ove Trangrade, not the greatest day for him, unfortunately, coming home in seventh position. Ben Laughter also falling off the back of his points competitors in the 8th spot. Niels Kor comes home in 9th after the trouble that he had with that 10-second lap where he got in an incident. Ian Haycox comes home in 10th today, one of his better finishes with us. Burke Treidler comes home in 11th, with Kike Mengual coming home in 12th. Brian Shanahan 13th, Max Mayday Thomas in 14th, Robin Haypitch in 15th after his spin. Ophir Zenu coming home in 16th, Warren Laskin 17th, Devin Dane in 18th position with Peter Misarek 19th, Michael Haynes 20th, and Enrico Gata coming home in 21st.
We're seeing some questions in the chat from the drivers in the sim itself, asking the same thing that I want to know. Is that the first broadcast win for Nick Schneider? Because I think it might just be. Hopefully we'll get to chat to him. This is definitely going to change the complexion of the championship because, again, Andre wasn't here, and he was only 1 point behind Fabian Gerber. I think this is going to put Schneider up to the top spot in the points for the GTPs. In the meantime, I believe we have one of our drivers who certainly had his own woes during this race. Adam has caught up with Robin Happich, who finished a little ways down the GTO field.
Yeah, Robin, very interesting race for you today, but talk to me about that moment through the Ascari chicane where you ended up putting that thing back into rally mode. And Robin, you got a copy?
Yeah, sorry. I just had some issues right now.
Absolutely. Bye. Well, Robin, you had a fantastic race throughout, more or less, but talk to me about that one moment through the Ascari chicane where you put the Audi back into its rally roots.
Well, I felt I was getting pinched on entry into Ascari, and then all of a sudden the four-wheel drive kicked in, and I just tried to keep it more or less predictable for the other drivers to go around me.
And we're also watching that you had a front row seat to the exciting moments at the beginning of the race through the Curva Grande. What were your thoughts when you saw GTP flying over your head?
Well, that's always scary when you see a car that's usually way ahead of you up in the air, but at that moment you already know you just gotta head on and try to get through it.
Absolutely, Robin. And you had a couple of battles on track today. Is this kind of draft track one of your preferred places to race, or do you prefer the tracks that are a little bit more winding?
The more winding, the better, because then you can just really get a good run out of each turn. So yeah, drafting is not my particular kind of style.
So speaking of that, we're headed to Zolder next week. What are your thoughts heading into that race?
Zolder will be interesting. First turn is not my strong suit, and I don't think it's the strong suit of the Audi. Also, getting into the chicane properly will be tough.
Well, we look forward to seeing you there, Robin. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Everyone that's part of this race and part of the series. I mean, this series is a lot of fun to drive, and I think more people should try it out.
All right, that was Robin Happich finishing 15th today, and definitely saw quite a few of the scary moments for the Audis. But Joe has caught up with Fabian Gerber, who finishes in 3rd today.
Another podium for Fabian, but probably not what you were looking for. Started this thing on the pole. I mean, what happened?
It was. I can't tell you how frustrated I am on so many levels. It is the worst race I ever had, even though it's I guess my favorite track. And there was just so many Audis all over the place in different lines, different behavior. The race was all about traffic, and I didn't have any luck with traffic. So that's about it.
We saw one of those traffic moments from your perspective on a replay with Happich in front of you spinning through Ascari. Walk us through what's going through your mind as you see the car weaving back and forth sideways.
I just closed my eyes and go through. No, I slowed down, hope nobody behind me would hit me. So try to avoid it as good as possible. I lost a lot of time there, of course, but in other places too. So it was just one of the things I hardly even remember it, to be honest. There were so many things happening. Bad things, actually.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised at how eventful this race was. I mean, this track is almost all straightaways. Do you tend to expect the chaos coming into Monza, or are you kind of like us where you come in thinking, oh, this should be a little bit more calm with traffic?
No, absolutely the opposite. I just thought it would be the easiest place for Kamel GT, and yesterday's race it was. It's just behavior, and I saw in the chat that some Audis also say that some Nissans behaved bad. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to say. I think this track is pretty straightforward, where you can overtake and where not. And yeah, I don't know. It's just unbelievable sometimes what some people do, but nothing I can do against it. So you just hope you survive and you try your best not to do the bad things. So that's all.
Fabian Gerber taking 3rd place today, sounding a little bit befuddled. We'll see if there's much conversation between the drivers after this one as we head off to one of our GTO drivers, Ben Laughter, another one that was involved in a lot of the big moments.
Yeah, Ben, not the greatest day for you, unfortunately, points-wise, and a couple of incidents ended up catching you out and putting you down in that 8th position. Talk to me about your day.
Yeah, I don't think I had my gearing quite right. Felt like I was better in the technical sections than on the straights themselves. So, I just couldn't get broken away into my own space early on and in a big group. And then, let me think in order. Reed and I went back and looked at it. I'm sure that was a net code. I might have still hit him. I don't know, but net code for sure. The car's never touched. He went flying. Nils, I'll take responsibility for it, but I think that he and I just sort of came together on Curva Grande, hunting for the same place. He was a little off the apex, and I was tracking in a little bit, so sort of joint there, I think. And then Maxime, he just missed his corner and murdered us. That's multi-class, tight draft track racing. It's hard like that sometimes.
Yeah, the multi-class aspect definitely coming into play today. We heard from Fabian Gerber just a moment ago saying that this was some of the worst traffic he's dealt with all season. How is it for you?
Well, I'll be blunt and mean here. There were 3 classes in this race. There was Audis and there was Nissans, and then there were really slow people in both cars who obviously hadn't turned a lap of practice that were in everybody's way. Those guys, you need to practice to drive these cars. So that exasperated the problem. But I mean, it's tough. You're doing your best to stay within a second in both classes. You need the draft. If you lose the draft, then you're murdered in the race. And so that happened to me early on. I was having a good battle with Esco, and I just had a bad run of luck in one lap and went from right off his bumper to 3.5 seconds back and never saw him again. So it's tough. Everybody's fighting for the same real estate.
Well, speaking to those people who have who you're saying need to probably practice some more, what's the one most important tip you think you could give those folks?
Seat time. I mean, just frankly, seat time. You can't come. I know it's only a 40-minute race, but you can't come into either of these cars with 30 minutes of practice unless you're someone like Joni Kajanen or something like that, who's just an expert at all cars, because he's a robot. For us mere mortals, a 40-minute race in this series, especially if you're unfamiliar with the car, is 5 hours of practice. If you're familiar with the car, it's 2 hours, 3 hours of practice. I put in, with 5 years experience in this car, I put in 3 hours a week.
Yeah, and even though you say that Yoni could jump in here, I know that he does practice quite a bit for this series. But Ben, thanks for talking to us, and hopefully you have some better luck next week at Zolder.
Yeah, guys, I look forward to watching the race. I think I'm going to get some whiskey and some popcorn and enjoy the enjoy the carnage that I'm in.
Absolutely, Ben. Well, thanks for talking to us, and see you next week. And that was Ben Laughter, our 8th place finisher in the GTOs. And Joe has caught up to 4th place in the GTPs, Phil Lake, who made quite a climb to the field.
He did. Definitely earned that 4th place, Phil, including a moment that is one of my moves of the race. You were in a fight around, I think it was lap 9 or so, and you absolutely threaded the needle 3 wide. I mean, how did you know that you could fit that GTP through there?
I assume this was when I was on the grass on the inside of turn 1.
Oh, you had another one then. No, this was out of the second Lesmo down to Ascari.
Oh, right. I think I remember that one. Yeah, there was a lot of moments in this race. Yeah, you get kind of familiar with the cars, and a big part of traffic management for me is who am I passing, or who am I racing. So there's some people that seem a little bit more aware of what's going on around them, so you can sort of push into a 3 wide situation and they'll know it's going to happen and they'll give you as much space as they can. But some people seem a little bit less aware, so in that situation you maybe don't go for it. But it was a really tough race with traffic today. It was I don't think it was anybody really doing anything wrong. It was just you could just catch people at the worst time, and it would cost you a lot of time to the people you're racing against. So it was pretty tough.
Well, speaking of racing and all the overtaking you had to do, what can be done about the qualifying? Is this more of a one-off, a blip because it was Monza, or do you think you can maybe queue a little bit higher up so that you don't have to make such hard work just to get a top 5?
No, this is one of my big problems. In the Audi, it kind of got glossed over because I could let Yuko out-qualify me by a second and I'd still be top 4, top 3. You can't do that in the Nissan. So being a second off the fastest guy puts me in outside the top 10 today. So I really need to work on it. I'm not sure what I need to do to improve my qualifying pace, but it really is a big issue in the GTP. So I need to focus on that moving forward.
Well, thank you for giving us all the entertainment we had today, and congratulations on a 4th. Is there anybody you'd like to thank?
Just you guys as usual, and all the DT guys.
Thank you, Phil. That was our 4th place finisher in the GTP class, and that's going to close out our interviews. We want to give a big thank you, of course, to the Kamel GT series for bringing us back for another season of coverage, but also a thank you to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen to see how to find her Bandcamp page where she's got more music. And thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, and Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, Instagram at GSRC_Ram. And don't forget, we've got a merchandise store linked in the description below. It is simply gsrc.storeenvy.com. The next race is going over to Belgium. That'll be Zolder at Saturday, January 23rd at noon Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar, including later tonight, the Bootleg Racing League's Grand National Series goes to the Bull Ring. It's off to Vegas. That'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.